Thank you. I would like to welcome you out to a seminar today. It's a great seminar. We have a bunch of interns. Or previous interns are going to tell us about their internships. And so before we get started, though, we'd like to start with a word of prayer. Lindsay Carr is going to offer that for us.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we're grateful for this day and the opportunity to be able to gather here together. And we ask for a blessing on those who are speaking to us today, that they're able to share their experiences from their internships. And please help that as we listen, that we can be attentive and know what we can do for our own internships and careers as we are getting ready to pursue them. And we love you so very much. And we see these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Okay, so like I said today, we're going to have some of our previous interns from the program share with us their experiences on what they did with the companies they were at. Some of them have PowerPoints, some of them don't. Some of them are prepared better than others because I asked some at the last minute to help present. And towards the end of the meeting, if we do have time, I may ask some of you in the audience to help present as well, or to talk about your internships briefly. So with that being said, there's a few announcements before we get into the main agenda of the meeting. Next week, we're going to be having Centra Holmes here on campus giving us the seminar. The seminar is going to be about the ins and outs of land development, so it'll be a great opportunity to learn a bit more about the land development side of our industry. Other brief announcements. On the 26th, which is next week, we'll also have Centra Holmes here doing an info session in the Austin 105, starting at 5:30. And then the following week, or on the 2nd of February, we'll also be having the NRP group. You should be receiving email notifications. If you're not, please reach out to me. The emails contain information about the upcoming seminars, information sessions and interviews, as well as ACMS membership, ASC competitions, NAHB competitions, and in general departmental updates. Congratulations for the NAHB 2 and 4-year teams for going and competing in Orlando. I think the 4-year was, they ranked 13th out of 35 teams, so they did really well. The 2-year ranked first for the 2nd year in a row, so that was a pretty great accomplishment as well. So, yeah.
Can I just take 1 minute?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I just want to add to what's already been said about the upcoming social next week. It's going to be a huge deal. It's going to be right in here. We want to fill this whole place up. All right. So, how many of you guys saw that email that came out that said, "Here's the survey. Sign up." Okay, you saw that? How many signed up? Good. Good. You can sign up at any time. You need to be an ACMS member to participate. Here's a form right here that you can sign up, or on that survey that went out. All you need to do is put your name and I number, and we'll get you signed up there. The $15 will just show up. That's the charge for the ACMS. It will show up on your student account, and it's well worth it. We're going to have multiple events this year. This along with the dinner and paintball, and you're allowed to bring a +1 or kids if you have it, right? So you're going to get your money back real quick and then some. So we hope to, like I said, fill this up. I think they're planning on 150 for dinner, and then maybe the same amount for paintball. So sign up. I'm going to send this form around if you haven't had a chance, so you can sign up there, or again, sign up through that email. But you need to at least sign up, right, for paintball, because we'll divide it out next week. Yeah.
So last summer you passed around, and this for ACMS, right?
Yeah.
Last week you passed around the sheet for signing up for ACMS. If we sign that, do we still need to fill out the email?
No, it's so on the survey, if you've already signed your name to that, there's an option that says, yeah, I'm a member. You can click, yes, I'm a member. I signed up. Okay. Still fill out the survey. Yeah, because we want to know how many are going to show up for dinner and paintball. you have a question?
Yeah, so people who signed up last week on the ACMS sheet, have you already added those people?
I have not. We are in the process of getting them
They'll be
added
added this week?
this week.
Okay, so then we should see any follow-up emails after that. Right?
Correct, yeah. Yeah, that's correct.
Well,
Well, you'll just be part of the ACMS, and so when you see an email that says ACMS member, that's you.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, hopefully you all can make it. It's gonna be great.
Okay, so now we're going to move into kind of the main segment of this seminar. We're going to start out with Sophia Francois first, then we'll go into Trevin Thompson, Cooper Sharp, Mark Stratford, Chamisa Davies, and then after we've had the opportunity for each of the interns or previous interns to present, then we'll just have them sit down here as a panel, and we'll do kind of just a question and answer session for the remainder of the time. So. You can actually applause after each presentation as well.
Just the final.
Hi everyone. Oops. Yeah. I'm Sophia Francois and I'm from Haiti. I had an opportunity to do both of my internships last summer and last fall in Utah. And the first one was with Oakland Construction in Provo. We were at the MTC. They have, not yet. So they're building an expansion. It's a joint venture with Layton and Jacobson. So we had all three teams working together on that project. It was an amazing project, and I learned that it's good, it's important to come to school and learn the theories, but once you're on the field and you can practice what you've been learning in the classroom, it makes more sense. At least it made more sense to me. And so the internship wasn't just about, do RFIs or working in the office, but we also had other opportunities, such as going to BYU preschool and taught the kids about construction and get them excited to dream about it. And this was a walk. Thank you. This was a walk I was giving to the architects. These are the LDS. These are church rep. They were visiting the projects. So every Wednesday, one other intern and I will be giving them some walks, and they would, point out things that need to be changed or things that the project engineer needed to be working on. So they asked us to take a picture. Look at this guy. So, yeah. So once you're in your internship, I find it very interesting how you can build your network. You can meet so many people, and you have so much fun that it's amazing. You ask them to recommend you to people you work with. This was another walk, but it was with the Oakland project engineer and one of the owners rep. This guy is a super, Matt Damon, and the project director. And this was me giving a hand to the concrete crew. They're working, and I just wanted to have the experience, so they took a picture. I didn't find out until the safety meeting. So on my internship, it was fun. It was really fun. Since, I was new, I was completely dumb. I didn't know a lot. So they taught me how to play golf, and that was during lunchtime. And I was bored, so I took a picture. And so I went up. We had what do you call it? An elevator, but it was so scary to go up and down because it was shaking the whole time. So I was going up and down all the time when I would go put codes on the building, different door frames. And then I realized that people were cursing so much, and I started making those signs. But they didn't like me. They thought I was too LDS, but it was. So yeah. So on my this internship with Oakland, I also had one opportunity to go to Haiti for a week. They are working on the Haitian temple. So since I speak Haitian Creole and I'm in construction, I'm Haitian. So I got an opportunity to fly there. And I got married. So between work, I got married between 2 meetings actually. So it was really fun. So yeah, you get married in your internship too. So yeah, that's my little presentation here. Can I have your help again very fast, please? Yeah. So. I feel like when you go in your internship, it's connect that real quick, please. So, yeah. So I feel like on your internship, you get an opportunity to practice, to learn. People don't expect you to know everything. They expect you to know something, not just blank. But at the same time, they know you don't know everything. So it's good to connect, to ask questions, to read, to inform yourselves. And if you have something you want to work on, a project, personal project in that, in the field, you can do it. It's a good opportunity to also see what are your lacks and things you can do better when you come back to school. My thing was planning, time management was something I needed to work on. So Excel was also something I lack a lot in. So I knew when I came back this semester, these are things I wanted to keep working on. And I did. And these, I'm gonna show you real quick some pictures of the MTC project. So hope it doesn't take too long. That was one of the presentation I had to do for the BYU kids. So that was good. Okay. Okay, that's, I use Spartan. So be aware of the technologies out there and use them as well. This was something I learned about too from Border Jensen, and I used it on my internship. Yeah. And after that, I'm done.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that presentation. That was awesome. Sounds like you had a really good internship. My name is Trevin Thompson. I don't have quite a cool video like that. I just got asked this morning to talk a little bit about my internship. But I do want to maybe pull it up so you guys can kind of have an idea of the projects that I worked on. I worked for an architecture firm called CRSA. Anybody heard of that by raise of hands? Yeah? Okay. Awesome. CRSA, they've done a lot of work for the church. And if you've heard of the Tijuana Temple, they did that one. They did some of the renovations on the St. George Temple.
Science building.
And I was just going to mention, anybody seen the new Science and Technology building? I think it's right over there. So they also designed that project, which was a lot of fun. I personally didn't have the opportunity to work on that project, but they already had it pretty much built by the time I started my internship. But they've done a lot of awesome stuff. Talk about my internship. Let's see if I can find my projects. This is my first project I was assigned to work on was the Jewish synagogue in Jackson, Wyoming. This presented a lot of different challenges for us. They have a culture which is very law-driven, and they have very specifics in how they want their things built. One of the things I worked on personally was a mikvah, which is kind of like a Jewish baptismal font. And one of the challenges we encountered was that we had to get all of the water for the mikvah, which was in the basement, kind of like how our baptismal fonts and temples are in the basement. But the mikvah, all of its water has to come from rainwater. And we can't have any angles in the piping. So we had to, it was a challenge for us to get that to work properly. So we had to design the roof in such a way that the rainwater would come down, straight down a wall in the middle, and work out. So we did. It was a difficult project, but it was a lot of fun. Talking with what do you call them? Not pastors, but the rabbi. Thank you, the rabbi. Consulting with them on how to do that. Let's see. I also worked on the Idaho Falls Event Center. Neither of these projects have been built yet, but this also was probably the favorite project I worked on. It's a large project, a lot of firms working on it, and the cool thing about this project is we got to use Autodesk 360 with our firm and a bunch of others as well. While I was putting in the drainage systems, there was somebody working on it on the inside, setting up the stadium. My coworkers working on putting the HVAC systems in, and you can see it all in real time. And so working with Revit and Autodesk 360 was a huge benefit. Just learning how to work with others and being able to work efficiently and quickly with that program. Let's see. During my internship, I did a lot of construction documents. Have any of you taken the Revit or AutoCAD classes in here, or are taking them? Good. If you're going into architecture, those will be extremely helpful. In my internship, I produced a lot of construction documents and helped the architects with that quite a bit. Let's see. We also ran into a lot of deadlines that we had to get done. Here at school, you might not like that you have due dates on your projects, but that's how it is. You're going to have deadlines and due dates out in the industry as well. We had to work really late nights sometimes until like 1, 2 in the morning getting these projects done, just because we had deadlines, and it was an interesting experience, a lot of fun, stressful for some of the principal architects, but and really enjoyed it and getting it done on time. Let's see. I also did some as-built drawings for a a medical facility down in ISU, which was interesting. Contacting those who built the project and figuring out, oh, they actually put a door here instead of here, how they designed it originally. So you learn a lot actually being out there in the industry as well. A lot more than you learn a ton in the classes as well. Being out there, it's a whole new experience. So if you have not yet had an opportunity to do an internship, make sure you do it as soon as possible, because it'll help you understand those things that you're learning in class as well a lot more. And that's all I have for you guys. Any questions? Awesome. Thank you.
So how many of you guys are CM or architecture majors? So there's some that aren't. For those of you that aren't, are you in this Austin building, like mechanical engineering, computer science, stuff like that, or totally different? There's a couple sisters up here that didn't raise their hand. Are you anything that has to do classes in the Austin? Any of our majors over here, or no? Okay, so you're here for a reason, obviously. How many of you have done an internship? At least one internship. Okay, so that's good. So internships, you'll hear people talking about it, you'll hear faculty talking about it. They're awesome, and you need to get started as soon as you can. Whether you're a freshman and you're not thinking of doing an internship for another 2 years, whatever it is, building that network is what's going to make you successful in the future. So I did my internship with McCarthy in the Phoenix office. As I was talking about that, my relationship with them, with Andrew, who recruits up here, started 2 years ago when I came up with a different company to a career fair. And I saw him and talked to him, and we stayed in contact ever since, and that's how I got my internship with McCarthy. So always take advantage of those opportunities to get to know people. So we started off, we got down to Phoenix the end of July. About 2 days after, well, the day after, we moved everything into our apartment. We got a call from my project manager and asked if we would be willing to go to Texas. They were trying to put a team together to go help out on some insurance claims down there on a solar farm. So we loaded up what we needed for a couple weeks and took off, not knowing anything about Texas or really what was going on. And you can ask my wife about the stress level on that. So the Rose Rock project was in Fort Stockton, Texas. Well, it was about 20 miles out of Fort Stockton. That's about 2 hours from El Paso, straight east of El Paso. $250 million solar farm, biggest solar farm in Texas when the contract was signed. Consisted of 695,000 solar panels. It spanned over 1,300 acres. I mean, huge solar farm. It was massive. And they had it split up. In all of that, they had to have big retention ponds and everything. So the panels covered 1,300 acres, plus all the acreage of retention ponds and all of that stuff. It was fun. And cattle, certain areas, they couldn't have fences across them. It had to be all open. And so you would get cattle walking right through, and guys would be chasing cattle all day, and it was fun to watch. But I'll play a little video on that one. Kind of it talks a little bit better than I can.
The City of Austin's electric utility. The Rose Rose Rock Solar Plant is near Fort Stockton, Texas, 5 hours from Austin.
We get about 11 inches of rain here, so we're pretty sunny all year long, so we have the ability to produce a lot of energy.
Recurrent Energy developed the Rose Rock project, and once completed, Southern Power, the majority owner of the project, will handle operations and maintenance. Austin Energy will be buying all of the power produced by the project. Why build a solar plant way out here in West Texas? Because the desert landscape is flat, expansive, easily worked, and has few drainage issues. Add technology, investment, and the hard work of hundreds of people, and you get this. A Texas-sized solar plant, 157.5 megawatts, more than 500,000 panels, enough to power 30,000 homes, built for less than the cost of a traditional power plant. Construction began in the fall of 2015. After grading the land, tens of thousands of piers were driven into the ground, along with hundreds of miles of wiring. Torque tubes, which rotate to follow the sun, were laid across the piers. More than 680,000 solar panels from Canadian Solar were then installed and wired. The power flows through inverters, which convert the power from DC to AC, and then onto a substation, which is connected directly to existing transmission lines. Testing began at the plant in mid-June, and it will be fully operational before the end of 2016, sending clean power into the Texas grid.
Okay, so if you didn't notice, the duration of that project was just over a year. They had 13 months to be off the job site from when they got on to when they had to be off. So to do over 1,300 acres of solar panels in 1 year is pretty crazy. So it was a very complex project. My portion of it was all data entry. So I got down there. They had a couple of our crews, when they were installing, they were using mallets on these solar panels. As you saw there, people were just setting them in place and calling it good. But then people came back afterwards and they weren't right, or they wanted to line them up right, and they just hit them rather than taking the brackets off and moving them. And so they had over 250,000 panels that in some form were affected by a mallet, whether it was a dent, whether it was a scratch, something that the owner said that was an installation error, we want it fixed. So our portion of it, we had people from the Dallas, Texas office, people from Phoenix, about 15 people out there walking through, and we had to inspect over 3/4 of the panels that were installed at that time. And we had to make a note which panels were affected, how bad it was, and if it was according to the owner's categorization chart of number 3, it had to be replaced. No questions asked, nothing about it. So we did that, and then on all the other panels, there was just a slight dent or things like that. We had to get a company come out and do testing on over 5,000 panels and prove that a little dent isn't going to affect the output of your panel. Tons of money, tons of effort went into just proving that we don't have to replace all 250,000 panels. But at $350 a piece, 250,000 panels, that adds up. So there wasn't any effort lost in trying to save the company on that one. So that was a fun project. I pretty much did Excel spreadsheet and Bluebeam. We had to map every panel that had to be replaced. We had to show it on a map, where it is, what location, what the serial number is. So there's a lot of data entry on that. After that project, I went back to Chandler, and I was working on the water treatment facility for the city of Chandler. I started out just helping out with the process piping. So the plant in and of itself is a 10 million gallon plant, meaning every day they produce 10 million gallons of reclaimed water. So that they send out to golf courses, to farmers, whatever it is. And we were adding a 5 million gallon expansion to that. But also in the expansion that we did, it's for a future phase to add 10 million gallons. So all of the buildings and stuff that we did was to eventually produce 15 million gallons of clean water, but they're only going to do 5 for right now. I started out doing process piping. That's all of the piping inside of the building. Once it comes out of the ground, from that point on is called process piping. In the ground, it's called yard piping. So all of your 36, 30-inch, 48-inch pipe coming out, stuff like that, we took it from there to the machines and then back down into the ground. So that was where I started. I helped doing lay drawings, which is just reviewing and making sure dimensions are right on everything, sizes, making sure what we send to the fab shops is the right stuff, because they fab it according to our drawings and then they deliver it on site a month later and it has to be right. So that was a really fun process for me. About a month and a half into it, one of our project engineers got pulled off onto another project, and so I got asked to help out with his scope. It was steel. We had 7 buildings that all had steel joist systems, roofing. The buildings were masonry or concrete, and so you didn't have the steel columns and stuff, just the joists and the I-beams up in the roof. So I kind of, not knowing anything about steel, tried to jump in on that one with the help from one of my project managers, and did the best what I could on that. And so that one was fun, a lot of learning, benefited me greatly, and I was very excited for that. But my baby was the signage. That was one that my project manager turned over to me like my 3rd week on the job site, and he said, "No one's doing this. Do you want it? Take it and run with it." At the time when they started, all they had was a allowance for it. They had no idea what they wanted for signage, nothing. And so it was all design build. We had to meet with the owner, with the architect, decide what they wanted, what style of font they wanted on their buildings, you know, stuff like that. So that was a really fun project. It gave me a lot of opportunity to get FaceTime with owners, with architects, to really learn not just the construction side, but the business side of it too. So it was really fun. We left that project the 1st of December, which we were sad about, but we were excited to get another opportunity, and we went back to Utah for a month and worked for a company in southern Utah. That one, it was just kind of helping out with little things, doing schedules, a little bit of modeling, just trying to get our field guys coordinated with what they were doing and seeing the project and understand it in a 3D type of way. So a lot of experience that's out there. I was very grateful for McCarthy in giving me the opportunity. I don't want to say a lot of people don't get the opportunity as an intern, because everyone does, but we felt like it was a great privilege to be able to, you know, get out to Texas and help out and get on some crazy stuff in Phoenix. So companies are looking for people that are willing to step in, willing to jump in, help, willing to stretch their boundaries and do stuff they've never done before. So that's what I have. We won't play that video.
I really don't know why I'm here. My internship was very different from what we've seen today. I would show pictures of my internship, but all you would see is my desk. I was an estimator for a construction company in the Bay Area called Ovra Construction. Ovra does about 60% of their work in the wastewater treatment area. If you don't know what a wastewater treatment plant is, flush the toilet and follow your nose, and you should be able to find it. If you don't know what I mean, when you go there, you'll understand. I had a lot of opportunities at Ovra. I got there on Monday, like most people do, to work. And the first thing that I walk in and I get upstairs and I'm sitting in the middle of the bid room. And the bid room is basically just a huge room with 2 flat screen TVs and a big standing island. And I'm sitting on this other side of it, and so I pretty much had the biggest office in the office. It was great, bigger than the CEO, but everyone could see me. The first day, I got in there and they asked me to do a constructability review on a bid that was bidding the next week. And I had no clue what I was looking at. It was a seismic upgrade for a wastewater treatment plant. And they were putting in all these new shear walls and all this shotcrete. And I just looked at these drawings and I have no experience. So I got to figure this out. And so we get through that. We go on a job walk. And then Wednesday, the vice president of estimating, who has MS, has some serious internal bleeding. And was rushed to the hospital. And we didn't know when he was going to come back. And it ended up being about 7 or 8 weeks of my internship that the vice president of estimating was not at OVRA. And so I really was pushed into a role as an estimator. On my 3rd week of estimating, they gave me my own project. And they basically said, we have a client, Dublin Santa Ramon Sanitary District, who has put this project out to bid this is the 3rd time. The first 2 times they've had issues with their bid documents, and so they had to push it out and resend it out to bid. So the chief estimator, who's below him, says, I don't have time to do this. It's basically a courtesy bid, and I'm going to let you run with it. And so here I was with a set of plans and specs. I had no clue what I was doing. It was a TI. Tenant improvement for a new office for them, and I went to town, and I made a lot of errors, and I asked a lot of questions, but I probably spent about 85% of my time on the phone with subcontractors. After I got the plans and specs, reviewed them, kind of understood what was going on, I made a lot of phone calls to make sure that they knew what they were supposed to do, because when bid day comes, you really only have, I always got there at 6:15 on bid day. So from 6:15 to 2 o'clock, that's about the only time you have. You're getting bids all day, the fax machine's spitting them out, you're taking them, you're writing them on your bid board, and you're trying to come up with this number, because at 2 o'clock, the deadline's over. And it was great. I learned a lot. I was jumped in the fire. I helped on about probably 8 other bids while I was there. We did our own self-performed concrete and our own mechanical piping. And so as you probably can tell, there was a lot of different areas that I was involved in, to making sure that your piping is bid right and your equipment is bid right, because you can have a $30,000 or $40,000 pump in a wastewater treatment plant, and you can have 5 or 6 of them. So you can tell if you miss something like that, and there's 6 of them, it's a lot of money. About a quarter of the way through my internship, I got another opportunity to have my own project, and it was about another $1.5 million project, which is very small for the company I was working for. It was a lab remodel at UC Davis. But this one, the chief estimator said, all right, I really am hands off on this. He gave me the project, we picked our subs together, and he didn't really talk to me about it until bid day. He walked in on bid day, and he said, what do we got? And we sat down and we reviewed bids, and that was the project. And unfortunately, we didn't win it. We won a few other bids while I was there, which was a great experience. But it gave me the responsibility to either sink or swim. And I was really grateful for that opportunity. I would say for anyone who's interested in estimating, you get something out of estimating that I think a lot of students don't get being on a job site as a project engineer or a project manager in 16 weeks. It's really a short amount of time when you think about the average, $20 million project is about 1.5 to 2 years long. So 16 weeks is pretty short. I had the opportunity to work with almost all the executives in the company, some of the best estimators there, and I had to build probably about 8 to 10 projects in my head while in my 16 weeks. So for me, I didn't get out on a whole bunch of jobs. I walked probably 8 to 10 jobs while I was there, but I wasn't on a job every day, and I missed out on that a lot. But what I did get out of it is I can take a set of plans and specs, and I can estimate a project. I know what to do, I know who to call, and I know where to look to figure out what I need to do to put dollars on that project for bid day. I think the one thing that you can do now to prepare is to go to the ASC competition or NAHB. The other side of my internship, I worked with a lot of some private work, some RFPs, requests for proposals, which are more of like a CM at risk project, and it's basically an ASC problem but in real life. And after seeing that, I know the importance of ASC. I know that what I'm going to get out of it is real life. It really is. At ASC, they give you a problem and they say, do it in 16 hours. In the real world, you have a little bit more than 16 hours. Usually put about 200 man hours into a proposal, depending on the size. But it's the real deal. So my advice is to anyone who's looking to do estimating or want to be in the business development, go to ASC, participate in the competitions, and just don't be afraid to jump in, because you'll learn a lot. And that's it.
Okay, so I'm Teresa Davies. I also interned with McCarthy. I was in their VDC department in the Dallas, Texas office. Basically, I spent all my time on a computer. It was actually pretty fun. I learned a lot, and it was a really good experience. That's the office building. You're on the 4th floor, and so they were doing a remodel of the office building while we were there. So the other intern and I ended up sharing a cubicle for a while. It was exciting. It was actually really fun. We got to be really good friends. So one of the things that I always wanted to know whenever somebody came back from an internship was what programs they used. So I compiled a list of all the ones that I used. And this probably isn't exactly all of them, but these are the ones I used the most. You can see I used the Bluebeam, Revit, AutoCAD, all the usual ones. And then I do actually use Photoshop. So if you don't know how to use Photoshop, it's actually a pretty good idea if you're going to look into the dev side of things. And then Assemble. Assemble's a Revit add-in for estimating. And if you were to, I don't know, like kind of rate them or put the ones that I use the most, the largest, it would definitely be Revit and Bluebeam as the largest. I was on them all the time. So while I was there, I had the chance to work on several different projects, which I feel like was a huge advantage because I got to see how BIM applied to several different situations. The Children's Preston Road Specialty Center was a medical project. It was supposed to be for rehab and surgery for children with sports-related injuries. It was pretty awesome. It had some crazy curves on the front that I had no clue what to do with the first couple weeks, but I survived. It was actually the first project that I started doing lift drawings on. And before I got to McCarthy, I was like, lift drawings, okay, so it's got something to do with concrete. Sure, I can do it. And when I got there, I realized what went into it, and it was awesome. So each lift drawing, it tells you basically what goes into each pour for the field people. So like the field people don't want to go through all the drawings and figure out, so all the embeds go here and the penetrations go here. So they have us do it, and we make it in a clear format that they can understand and go through really quickly during a pour deck checkoff. Southwest Airlines, such a cool project. That one was awesome. They had a flight training center and then an office building. And the flight training center was on a really tight schedule and had some really impressive concrete. Southwest Airlines had bought some new jets, and they needed people to start training so that the day that the jets arrived, they could start flying them, putting them to use, because they were losing money every day that the jets weren't flying. So that one was on a super tight schedule, and the office building people hated the FTC people because they were always like, well, if we need it, we can just take it from the office building. It was super funny sometimes. So the High School for Visual and Performing Arts, I didn't actually do too much with them. I basically just did Navisworks stuff with that one, but it was a pretty cool building, and it had a lot of like crazy architectural features that I didn't get to see on most of the others. Christus Spawn Tower. Towards the end of my internship, I started modeling the Christus Spawn Tower, and it was nuts. Talk about curves and bad drawings. I just about died. But it made me realize that you can do things that you never thought possible. My supervisor expected me to figure out how to model that, and eventually I did. It was impressive. I went from basically just having a couple of piers laid out to the 4th floor, and it was an adventure, to say the least. So, like I said, concrete lift drawings, that was the bulk of what I did, really. And it was super good for learning just construction to begin with. Like, you have to understand what all the plans are saying and be able to put things in a format that's readable and understandable for the other people out in the field. I also learned a lot about Revit that I had no clue before. Concrete modeling. So the concrete models, they serve two purposes. The one was for concrete lift drawings, and the other was for coordination. We would model the concrete for each job and then take the model and put it into Navisworks with all the subcontractors' models of things like HVAC and duct and piping and plumbing, and then they'd run clash reports to see where stuff was conflicting. And after a while, Chris, my supervisor, started sending me the links to the invites to the GoToMeeting subcontractor get-together on the clash reports. We call those coordination meetings. Basically, it just consisted of the poor people at McCarthy going, okay guys, you really need to move the piping up so it's not going through the duct. But it was really interesting. I learned a lot about talking to subcontractors and to just communicating with people in general. I learned so much about Navisworks too. I'd never opened up Navisworks before my internship. And I went from knowing absolutely nothing to being able to create search sets and implement them and put in appearance profiling. It was awesome. And at one point, Chris was like, okay, we're going to learn this, and we're going to get SWA caught up. So we got together in a room for 3 days solid. All we did was search sets and implementing them. It was such a good crash course. And when we finished a couple weeks later, he had me teach the other intern, which was a really good experience because it was a good way to put together the whole BYU-I learning model. I got to teach someone else and see that I didn't know things as well as I thought I did. But it was really good. It really cemented things for me. For a very short little period, I was working on stuff for pursuits. That's where the Photoshop came in. I really didn't use it too much other than that. He had a really tight schedule, my supervisor did, and so at one point he just couldn't take the time to put together the site logistics plan, and he's like, does anyone want to do it? And I was the one with the most free time in my schedule as far as like concrete lift drawings coming up, due dates and everything, and so I volunteered, and it was a really good experience. I got to learn a lot about like the symbols that you can put together in Bluebeam. It was basically a joint thing between Photoshop and Bluebeam. And it was really fun because it was for a new garage right across from my apartment building. So I'd get to run past it every day and think, I can't wait to see if we get that one. We didn't, but it was really cool anyway. And then we have a weekly staff meeting, which I kind of dreaded at first, and then I really learned to like. We'd get together, and I learned so much about organization from him. It was amazing. We'd get together and go over what we had to do in the next couple weeks, and he'd have Majora and I, the other intern, read our internship reports about what we did the past week and what we'd learned. And then the last question was about what we thought would make the internship better or what we wanted to experience next. And at first I was like, that's like telling you what you're doing wrong. I don't want to do that. And so I didn't like it. But then I found out he would actually apply it and go with it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to tell you everything. It was fantastic though, because I felt that I wanted to go on site a lot. And even though it was really difficult, I did manage to get out on site more than I thought I would. Other aspects, pursuits. At one point, I did get to play around with the HTC Vive because they brought it in for a meeting with architects and owners, and Chris let the interns play around with it for a little bit. It was super cool. And then there were safety calls every once in a while, and estimating. I really got to know the estimators pretty well. And at one point, he had me put together concrete quantification of all the concrete in the Christus Tower, which I later started modeling. So it was really good that I went through it first and like got to see what the architect had done. It was really cool, especially since once I did it by hand, he had me put it in assemble, so I got to learn assemble as well. And then site. Site was super cool. The only one I really have pictures of is children's because that's the one I was out on the most. I really liked going on site because I got to see the application of what I was doing in the office. In the office, you kind of feel like you're stuck in the computer, and then you go on site and you see the embeds that you were laying out in Revit getting laid out on site to get concrete poured in. It was so cool. And then I think the coolest part, the part where I saw BIM's application the most and how useful it can be to McCarthy and other construction companies, was one day it was pretty early on in the internship, so I was still like, I didn't know what I was doing at all. And I was laying out these embeds for this front canopy on the children's job, and they've got this curve, several different curves on the front. And it wasn't laid out the way I thought it should, and I called up one of the project engineers, and I was like, so I'm having trouble with this. And she looked over it, and they sent it to the architect, and then finally we realized that the shop drawings hadn't coordinated somehow with the actual construction documents, and so they were way off. And it's something that if they discovered it out in the field while they were pouring the concrete or when they tried to put the canopy up, it would have been super costly. So I was really excited. Like, that was one of the big, like, oh, no, it's free. It was so cool to see how much money BIM can save the construction industry. So I don't have too many pictures. Sorry, I'm just not good at taking pictures. But this is, you can see the backside of the children's main office building. And then up here, you can see that spacing towards that direction with all the rebar, getting ready for the next pour, and there's the embeds, and that's the view off the back. Because it was for sports-related injuries, they had this football field that would be about where all the rebar is, the dirt out there, and so you'd have this gorgeous view of a little stream / river going by, and a football field, and then all this glazing on it. It was just a gorgeous place. I was so excited to see it actually come into fruition. Sometimes I want to go back and see it. And then, I know it's kind of random, but they did a great job on the office remodel, and I just really liked the lobby, and I thought that I don't know how many of you know about the McCarthy tradition of having a bell ringer every time they win a project, but every time they'd win a project, they'd go out and they'd ring this bell as loud as they could, and theirs was humongous and shaped like Texas, you can see right there, and it was a Texas dinner bell, and truly everything really is bigger in Texas, I feel like. Anyway, and Dallas was awesome. That was an amazing experience, and I highly recommend it. And as a final note, I'm pretty sure Chris is looking for interns for fall, so if you want to talk to me about it, feel free.
That's a good invitation.
Okay, real quick. How many of you guys still need to do an internship? All right, I'm the internship coordinator. Before I forget, 2 presentations on McCarthy, right? And McCarthy's going to be here in 1 month. So if you're interested in that company, they do hire a lot of interns, so they'll be here in 1 month. You can meet with them. I have a paper right here that tells you the process of how to sign up for an internship, right? I'm not going to take the time to go over that, but I have it here. And this must be signed. This is your first step of getting an internship. Okay, so if you plan on doing an internship next semester in the spring, make sure you get on here and sign before you leave today. All right, I'll leave this up here. I'll let you guys ask these guys questions. Looks like we have 2 minutes.
So did you guys have any specific companies that you were looking to internship for? And how did you guys land those interns if you did?
Okay. Not really, because they would, when we have career fair here, and then I know I wanted to be in Utah, and I think I wanted Jacobson because we went on a tour. We went on a tour in Utah with ACMS, so I really like Jacobson and Layton and Oakland, but I really, really like Jacobson. But when I spoke to the Oakland recruiter and they called me first at AESC, they invited me out as well, and I felt really good about them. And I got the internship first with them, so I went with them. And my movie was kind of the same thing, the connection, and it worked. So.
I would say for me, it's not. For me, I was more open, and so I wanted to try and take advantage of every opportunity I got to talk to a company and especially interview with the company here on campus. And so it was more try to get as many offers as I could, and then me and my wife decided where we wanted to go based on, where we wanted the opportunity to go. And so for us, it wasn't just a specific company. We had probably 10 to 12 companies that we were recruiting with, and then from the opportunities we had, we chose one that we thought would be the best.
We're going to actually have to cut off here, but if you do have questions, feel free to come up and talk to the panel, and we appreciate everybody's participation here. So maybe one last round of applause.